We hear about the artificial intelligence revolution every single day. But today, in this explainer, we're doing something a little different. We're unpacking a really fascinating Wall Street Journal analysis by Thiela Stamos, Kevin Koharki, and John Weil on the true, hidden financials of big tech's AI boom. We're going to look right under the hood at the real accounting that makes this massive engine run.
Okay, let's dive right into this by acknowledging the elephant in the room, the massive Wall Street hype. We're watching these legacy tech giants rocket toward absolutely mind-boggling $3 trillion valuations, mostly fueled by reports of record-breaking revenues. But we really have to ask, are these hyperscalers actually making the mountain of cash they claim, or are we looking at a remarkably clever financial optical illusion?
Section 1. The hidden cost of talent.
To build this AI future, the tech giants are locked in a literal bidding war for top-tier engineers against incredibly well-funded rivals like OpenAI and Anthropic. And, these highly sought-after engineers don't just want a nice standard salary. They're demanding massive, life-changing pay packages. So instead of draining their immediate cash reserves to pay them, companies use what's called stock-based compensation, or SBC. Basically, they pay their talent with restricted stock units and stock options. Now, on the surface, that looks like a brilliant way to save cash while keeping employees super happy.
But here's how this cycle actually builds, because, of course, there's a catch. Step 1, you issue all this new stock to your engineers. Step 2, ordinary shareholders get diluted. There are suddenly way more shares in existence, making each individual slice of the pie smaller. So for step 3, to prevent outside investors from panicking over their losing value, the company has to step in and spend billions in actual cash buying back its own stock, just to offset that exact dilution.
And here is where the accounting magic trick happens. Following standard rules set by the Financial Accounting Standards Board, these massive cash buybacks to offset employee dilution don't actually lower the reported free cash flow, because they're technically categorized differently. The headline numbers that Wall Street cheers for stay looking absolutely pristine, even though, in reality, billions of dollars in cash just walked right out the back door.
Which brings us to Section 2, Calculating True Cash Flow.
To really see the reality of the situation, analyst Kevin Koharki suggests adopting a Buffettologist mindset. That means looking at what the actual owners of a business walk away with at the end of the day. Think of it this way. Imagine you and your friends got together and took a massive company like Meta private. If you suddenly had to pay all those brilliant AI engineers in actual, hard cash instead of stock to keep them from walking to a competitor, that expense would hit your income statement immediately. Your profits and your true free cash flow would completely collapse.
So when you contrast the reported numbers that we constantly see flashing on CNBC against the true cash left over after accounting for these talent costs and the necessary buybacks, the drop is genuinely shocking. We are talking about some minor accounting discrepancy here. We are talking about a fundamental misunderstanding of exactly how much money these businesses are really generating right now.
And the math brilliantly illustrates the severity of this illusion. Based on the analysts' estimates from the source material, a staggering 89% of Meta's projected 2025 free cash flow completely vanishes when you adjust for the real cash equivalent cost of stock-based compensation. Yep, that leaves only 11% as actual remaining cash for the owners.
Let's look at the raw numbers, because adjusting the math drastically shifts reality. For 2025, Meta's headline cash flow drops from an estimated $46 billion all the way down to just $5 billion. And Alphabet, they tumble from a reported $73 billion down to just $24 billion. That is the true adjusted cash flow. It's just a completely different universe than the one being priced into the market today.
Moving on to Section 3, the debt-fueled AI boom. Okay, so building out artificial intelligence requires gigantic data centers and incredibly expensive hardware. If these companies aren't actually generating the mountains of cash we thought they were, how exactly are they paying for all of this infrastructure? Well, the answer is leverage. Just 5 years ago, tech hyperscalers had virtually zero debt and very few physical hard assets. They were super asset light. But today, they're leveraging their balance sheets in a desperate land rush for AI dominance. They're shifting their entire business culture from cash-printing software machines to heavy, debt-laden infrastructure companies. Take Alphabet, for instance. They had to borrow $30 billion in just the first quarter of this year alone, along with issuing $85 billion in shares. You've got to ask yourself, if their core business was truly generating enough free cash flow to fund the AI revolution, they wouldn't need to tap the debt market so aggressively, right?
Now, despite piling on this debt, Wall Street maintains this incredibly optimistic checkmark projection. Sell-side analysts fully acknowledge the current hit to cash flow, but they project a miraculous rebound. They're assuming these companies will magically nearly double their free cash flow by 2029 once the heavy digging stops and the data centers are finally built.
But balancing that extreme optimism against industry realities reveals a massive disconnect. NVIDIA's own CFO recently projected that by 2030, the world will require $3 to $4 trillion a year in data center IT spend. To put that into perspective, global IT spend right now is only about $6 trillion total. So we're talking about a 50% jump. The math required to offset that level of capital expenditure and still somehow double free cash flow, it just doesn't easily add up.
Let's look at Section 4, the looming reality check.
The crucial point here is that we have to objectively look at the physical macro realities that current accounting models are completely ignoring. It's not just about chips and software, it's about the physical real world supporting the tech. As one tech CTO shared with the WSJ analysts, it's a sobering realization. AI data centers suck up so much water and electricity that they might physically only last 15 years, instead of the standard 30 to 40 years for a normal commercial building. If these centers have a drastically shorter lifespan, it radically speeds up the expensive capital expenditure cycle. Basically, you have to rebuild much sooner, which costs even more money.
Right now, we're kind of sitting in this golden lag time. AI sellers like NVIDIA log massive revenue today. But the tech giants buying the hardware, they are delaying logging their expenses and depreciation until those data centers actually get built and the lights officially turn on. This creates a weird temporary window where the entire S&P 500's earnings look artificially inflated simply because the revenue is booked, but the true costs are quietly deferred to tomorrow.
So, as you process this explainer on the hidden mechanisms of big tech's balance sheets, we have to acknowledge that while the AI boom is incredibly real, so are the hidden costs of talent, debt, and infrastructure decay. We want to leave you with one final thought. When the music finally stops, the golden lag time ends, and the true bills come due, whose portfolio will ultimately pay the price? Thanks for joining us, keep learning, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next explainer.